So, these are the three kinds of despair. Alright? Now, I'm just going to see if I can't explain this a little bit better. Alright? Maybe an illustrative example would work. Well, and what I'm going to pull on is what I've been calling throughout this course sort of my shitty job diet. Alright? One of the jobs that I worked to get myself through my undergrad was at a little place by the name of the Great Canadian Trading Post. It's one of those tourist trap stores, right, where you buy fridge magnets, t-shirts, moccasins, soapstone carvings, little thimbles with the Canadian flag on them. Crap, basically. Just crap, right? And as I'm in a situation on my average day of work, right, what I have to do is answer a phone, deal with customer questions and that sort of thing, and I'm sure we've all had these kinds of jobs where it's just the same sort of dozen questions over and over and over again, right? But in that situation, what I have to do, what I'm required to do as part of my job, is with a very happy, smiley face, give the company line. Right? Now, if Kierkegaard in general, you know, the existential position, which again I'm misrepresenting to you just slightly here, right? Because Kierkegaard himself isn't per se an existentialist, but his position subscribes to a lot of the sort of standard lines. Right? What I have to do in that situation is, in a sense, play act. Right? When I answer the phone, I pick it up. Hello, Great Canadian Trading Post, Grant speaking. How can I help you? Right? There are dozens and dozens of very, standard things that I have to say as I work the cash register, as I tell people about the various crap that I'm trying to sell them, that sort of thing. The standard lines, right? And we've all been in these situations where we have to just recite these standard lines, right? So when we relate to ourselves in a particular situation, in that particular situation, essentially what we're doing is we are play acting, all right? I put on that big fake smile, which anyone who has done this knows it gets heavy after a while, right? You almost don't want to stop smiling because you're not sure you'll be able to lift it again, right? And you play act your role, right? Hi, I'm Grant. Welcome to the Great Canadian Trading Post. How are you doing today? What can I help you find? Right? Welcome to Canada. Is there something specific that you're looking for? Blah, 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 etc., etc. Even if we've never worked a waitstaff job, we're all familiar with those waiters that, they don't say anything to you except for what you could easily picture being on a laminated card in their back pocket. Well, this is this is that, this is the other thing. We, in a sense, play a role. Now, the trick for Kierkegaard's philosophy is understanding ourselves playing these roles, right? Which is all we essentially ever do, right? And have these roles be meaningful to us, right? As we relate to ourselves in these relations, right? Not fall into despair, right? Have these relations be meaningful to us, right? I mean, if you've ever been in a situation where you've got to answer the phone at a job, like the example that I was giving you, Great Canadian Trading Post, Grant speaking, how can I help you? Right? And then after a long day of work where the phone's been ringing off the hook, you come home and what do? You pick up the phone, right? And your phone rings, you pick it up, you say, Great Canadian Trading Post, Grant speaking, how can I help you? Ah, damn it. Hi, Joe. How are you doing? Right? It's easy to fall into these sort of automatic responses, these roles that we create for ourselves to cope with relating to ourselves in this relation. Right? We just kind of turn ourselves off, right? And play act the role. I feed people the company lines. I feed people this sort of theatrical shtick, right, that I have to in order to get through. Essentially, I do it in this course, right? I've had this conversation with coworkers of mine. At any given point, there is a complete Intro to Philosophy and Intro to Ethics course right in my head. You say go, I can pretty well recite it from memory. Right? And what Kierkegaard wants to point out to us is that when we take on these roles for ourselves, right, the great hazard is hating ourselves, not liking ourselves as these role-playing kind of entities. Right? And the danger's, universal, right? It's everywhere. It's omnipresent. Right? Because essentially we do that when we relate to our parents. How many of us haven't had that same conversation with our mothers or our fathers dozens and dozens of times? When we relate to our friends, we talk about the same sorts of things. We recite our standard positions, right? This is what I believe, blah, 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 etc., right? When we have our relationships, yes, dear, whatever you like, right? No, honey, you don't look fat in that dress, etc., right? And it seems from a certain social perspective that being a good human being is at least partially to know what lines, to know what prefabricated crap to spew out on demand, right? To satisfy people within these social situations, right? So, to what extent are we ever being genuine, right? So despair, right, as Kierkegaard presents it to us, is a sickness of the spirit, right? The human being is spirit, the spirit is the self, right? So the self is a relation that relates itself to itself, or the relations relating itself to itself in the relation, right? So when I'm working at the Gap or the Great Canadian Trading Post or at some waitstaff position or giving my intro lecture or on a first date where I've got those witty retorts for everything, right? Well, what the danger is for Kierkegaard in terms of this sickness of the spirit that he calls despair is that I won't be able to take myself seriously. I won't be able to relate myself to myself in the relation, right, in a way that's meaningful, important, or genuine, right? So when Kierkegaard claims that despair, right, is a sickness of the spirit, it's a breakdown in this relation that relates itself to itself in the relation, right? So accordingly, there are three kinds. First off, right, that sort of telematic presence that we all put on, right? When I sit down to grade, I don't think about myself relating to myself in the relation, right? I just sort of put myself into almost a trance and get through it, right? Kierkegaard would point out that there are lots of people that live their entire lives this way, right? And the Roderick video I posted for you, and Rick Roderick actually kind of points out that this is why zombie films are scary to us, right? Because it's human beings, but they're not human beings. They don't relate themselves to themselves in a relation. They just act. They act on desire. They don't think about what they're doing. They're just these purely reactive forces, right? When I take a look at myself in a situation, right, and I say, hi, welcome to the Great Canadian Trading Post, Grant here, how can I help you today, right? Can I take myself seriously? Do I want to be the sort of person who says, hi, welcome to the Great Canadian Trading Post, my name's Grant, how can I help? Right? Can I really take myself as somebody serious or important or what have you? Right? It's the final that is kind of an interesting twist, right? Lots of us will to be ourselves, but we will to be a different person than ourselves. If we find ourselves in a situation where we wish we were wittier or funnier, right? We say, I wish I like being myself, but I wish I were different.